Hello there and welcome to Luminar NEO All Sliders Explained, the show where we describe and explain you every single slider in this powerful photo editing application. Now, if you've never been here before, my name is Jakub and I'm a creator and founder of Clever Photographer. Now, before we're going to start, I have a few things I want to cover. First of all, at the end of the video, we're going to give you our own and very popular Luminar NEO shortcut cheat sheet. So stay until the end so you can get your own copy. The second, if you want to follow us along, make sure you head into the description, follow the link there and get your sample files before we're going to start. If you don't own Luminar NEO, you can also follow the link in the description and use our own discount code Clever Photographer. That way you get additional 20% off and you can get your own copy. And finally, we want to ask you to like and comment on our videos and also follow our channel so we can keep creating content like this. In today's video tutorial, we are looking at the creative tools and more specifically at the mystical tool. Now let's talk about the mystical tool first of all. The mystical tool gives your image a dreamy look by softening the luminescence while increasing the contrast and saturation. Now this effect can create a fantasy look by increasing contrast and adding a creative glow, prioritizing it in the lighter areas of an image. And you will see that in a second. Now, where do we find it? We are here on the side in a toolbar and it's almost at the end and it's right here. So it has 5 sliders and let's have a look at them right now. Starting with the amount slider adjusts the overall strength of the tool. For a moderate effect and more realistic image, you should keep the amount slider somewhere between 30 and 40. Now, of course, just as usual, if the amount is on 0, the tool doesn't get applied, and moving the sliders towards the right, it increases the effects on the overall photo. For the rest of the sliders, once again, when the amount is on 0, you can see that they are all grayed out, and that's simply to do with their connection with the main slider. So all the rest of them affect the actual effect of the mystical tool. So let's push the amount slider and let's start to have a look at what it does. Now, once again, as always, when we work with these tools and learning how they work, we really want to push the slider quite far so we can see what the slider does. So we're increasing the effect, and as you can see, we're really getting a lot of glow. We're getting some saturation, some nice contrast. And once again, as I was mentioning earlier, the glow and the contrast gets prioritized in the lighter area of the image. So it's focusing on lights and the sky and so on. So let's have a look at it before and after. So this is what our amount slider does. Then we have another slider called shadows, and this slider adjusts the black point for the darker areas of an image. It basically works with the brightness of the image and of the actual effect. By default is on 25, so the darker areas of the image are darker, as you can see here, which helps us with the overall contrast, and we can make them even darker by sliding down the slider, or we can open them up and make them brighter by pushing the slider the other way around. It really depends what effect you like. Just as always with all the sliders, you can reset them by double clicking on their name and they reset to 0 or their default value. Moving to the smoothness, this slider controls the contrast and sharpness of the overall effect. So by default is on 0. Now, when I push it towards the right, it gets smoother and the effect gets spread much more smoother around the image, and the details are not as prominent. And when I push it the other way around, as you can see, the sharpness gets increased and the effect in overall is much more defined. So let me reset it. And I will bring the smoothness down and you can see how we're getting the contrast and sharpness in the overall effect. And when we push it the other way around, we're getting much more glow into the overall effect. So we can again reset the smoothness and move to the other 2 sliders, which are in the tab called colorize. So here we have saturation and warmth. So the saturation slider is a useful way to adjust the color saturation of the mystical effect. Now it's not going to be as prominent here as there are not that many colors here. However, as we're going to edit some other pictures, you will see the difference quite a lot. But as you can imagine, by moving it towards the left, we taking the saturation off. By moving it right, we increasing the saturation of the effect. And to finish it off, we have the warm slider here, and this slider adjusts the hue of the mystical effect towards the warm end of the spectre or cool end of the spectre. So really, just following the colors on the slider, you can make the picture cooler or the other way, warmer. So those are the sliders. I hope you get what the effect does and you can see the result. And now I think we should try it on some other images. Now to try the tool on some other images, we need to go back to our catalog. And here we have additional 3 images. Now once again, as a reminder, if you want to follow me along, all you need to do is to jump into the description, follow the link there and download the sample files so you can join me and work on your own computer. To start with, we're going to be looking at the portrait image right here, and we will just bring it to our edit module. Once again, we are focusing on the mystical tool, and let's bring it a little up and let's see what we can do with it. Now, working with the portrait image, it's important to remember that the mystical tool doesn't have a human or subject-aware features. It doesn't work like a dramatic tool or structure AI, masking out the main subject or human. It basically applies it everywhere. So that's really important. So then when we go into the tool and apply the amount, you can see that we applying the glow everywhere. I think with the portrait photography specifically, it's good to remember that staying somewhere around 30-40 will give you more realistic result. Then we can jump into the shadows, which again are a little bit more about the artistic decision and seeing what works better for you. And the smoothness, I think for portrait photography is an important one as well, as really by pushing the slider one way or the other, you can either increase the realistic look or decrease it. So you can add more glow and make it so much more fantasy-like, however, remove the human element of it, or you can push it the other way around and bring back some of the details and make it a little bit more realistic. Finally, once again, you have the 2 options, add or remove saturation and make it warmer or cooler. And it's really up to you and up to your image to see what works better for you. So you can make it cooler, which I don't think it works on this image. So we'll make it a little bit warmer. And with the saturation, we can make it a little bit more realistic, but I think if we just leave it on 0, it will work the best. So I think when it comes to portrait photography and a mystical tool, the most important is to remember that the mystical tool doesn't apply any masking and it just gets applied everywhere. Now the next image we're going to be looking at is this street right here. So we select it and we move to the edit module. Now this street is a great example of where I'm going to show you how to use this tool and only apply it selectively to the specific parts of the image. So once again, we're going to be looking at our mystical tool and we can push the amount a little bit. And what we're really looking at is how it gets applied to these lights and how it gets applied to the brighter parts of the image. So when I push it, it again takes away a little bit of the realistic feel of the image. And we don't really want that. We just want to increase a little bit of the glow and make it a little bit more romantic. We can look at the shadows, see what it does. It doesn't really make huge difference, so we can just leave it to what it was. I think I will push the smoothness just a little bit. And with the saturation, we leave it where it is, but I would like to push the warmth just a little bit to apply it to the areas of the lights and those lights on the streets and so on. So now we have a next option of working with our masking here and only apply it to the specific locations. So what we're going to do, we're going to click into this add mask. And once again, if you haven't used the mask before, we have a full tutorial on it, and there should be a link in the description for this tutorial, as well as a little tag in a corner of your screen. So here we have the paint mask. We're going to be brushing the effect in the specific areas. And now all we need to do is to set up our brush. So let's adjust the size. Let's make it nice and big. Softness, let's leave it on 100. And I think with the strength, we'll start with 50. So this way we can now make the first brush stroke, and as soon as I'm going to do that, the effect will disappear and it will only start to appear where I'm going to brush with the tool. So let me show you that. I'll brush here, and as you can see, the effect only going to get applied to these areas. So let's just continue brushing around the lights and also around this one. And I think around the street here and these lights right here. Then we can focus on this area, this light here, and That's probably about it. Maybe the slide right here. Now we can increase the strength a little bit, maybe bring down the size and keep brushing just here, here, and maybe a little bit more here. Now let's have a look at the before and after, and you can see that it's very subtle, but it adds a little bit of special to the image. So this is a good example of how you can use these tools only locally and you don't have to apply the effect to the overall image. Now, of course, you can always go back and adjust the amount here, maybe to push the glow a little further, open the shadows more, add more warmth, or whatever you'd like to do. However, this is how you would use it locally. And finally, to finish it off, we're going to use this fourth image right here, and we're going to bring it back to our edit module. And what I want to do is I want to show you that this effect, the mystical effect, can be also used in black and white photography, because on the beginning I told you that it works with saturation, but it can be very handy for the black and white photography too. Now, to turn our image into black and white, all we need to do is to jump into our essential tools, click on the black and white tool here, and click on convert to black and white. Once we're done with that, we can just close it and go back to our mystical tool. Here in the mystical tool, let's push the amount. And once again, you can see that the effects get applied, everything except the saturation, and it's starting to look very nice. Now, we want to create quite dramatic scene, so we push it quite a lot. The smoothness, I think we push more towards the smooth side. And to increase the impact, we're going to bring the shadows down to create something like this. Now, obviously, saturation is not going to work here. However, the warmth will. So you can actually, by shifting one slider, change a little bit of the tint of the monochrome. So you can push it this way and create something a little bit tiny blue, or you can make it really, really cool and blue, or you can push it the other way and make it a little bit warmer, almost creating something like a sepia look. So before we're gonna finish, once again, our mystical tool, great tool to create dreamy look by softening the luminescence while increasing the contrast and saturation. We have 5 sliders here, the amount, which adjusts the amount of the effect applied to your image. Then the shadow slider adjusts the black point for the darker areas of an image, just as you've seen on multiple examples. The smoothness adjusts the contrast and the sharpness of the effect. Again, you saw that several times. And then in the colorize, we have the saturation, which is a great way to adjust the color saturation of the effect. And then we have the warmth, which adjusts the cool or warm look of the effect. So now it's time to get your own Luminar NEO shortcut cheat sheet. All you have to do is to head to our website cleverphotography.com/luminargift and get it right now. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you had fun and I hope you learned something new. Please don't forget to follow our channel and also check out our other videos covering Luminar NEO. For today, thank you very much for watching. My name is Jakub and I can't wait to see you in the next one.